The current structure places the office under the Ministry of Labour, Industrial Relations and Employment Creation, which, as part of the central government, has a broad mandate. The Office of the Labour Commissioner is independent in the decision that it is making, but administratively, it depends on the budget allocated to the ministry. This setup then affects our funding because we rely heavily on the ministry allocated budget, and then we have to compete with other essential programs within the ministry. As a result, our specific financial needs are often secondary to broader departmental priorities. And this, in many cases, creates challenges in securing adequate resources for our specialized function. So while the Office of the Labour Commissioner holds some functional independence in executing its dispute resolution functions, it needs administrative and financial autonomy. In order for the Office of the Labour Commission to achieve greater autonomy, then reforms such as independent budget authority, flexible policy-making capacities, and greater control over internal personnel matters would really be essential if we are to succeed with the dream that we have for becoming autonomy.
Okay. So what are some of the main factors Cabinet considered when it approved, in principle, the Ministry's proposal to have the Office of the Labour Commissioner as an autonomous commission?
The Cabinet considered the approved decision by SADC member states. As we know, Namibia is a member state of SADC, on the SADC model framework for autonomous labor dispute resolution systems, along with the ILO recommendation on the same issue. So by approving the proposal in principle, the Cabinet acknowledges that these factors collectively support a more effective, responsive, and impartial OLC, positioning it to be better serve the Namibian nation and uphold the integrity of the system as well as the workers' and employers' rights. Mm-hmm. So those are some of the factors, among other factors, that the Cabinet considered.
So what are some of the main determining factors that should be in place to have the Office of the Labour Commissioner fully functional?
Okay. In order for the Office of the Labour Commissioner to be fully functional and effectively carry out its mandate, several factors must be established. For example, we need an efficient budget practices. We need strategic planning and adequate administrative framework, meaning that the office requires a stable budget. It requires skilled staff, a robust infrastructure, because currently the infrastructure that we have is not really adequate to help us to carry out our mandate. We need proper IT infrastructure. We want an infrastructure that a party that wishes to refer a dispute to the Labour Commissioner can do it wherever that person is. You can be at the comfort of your home and you just click a button and you refer your dispute. We require clear registration. We require accountability measures. And we also require active stakeholder engagement. So with these factors in place, the OLC would be positioned to deliver high-quality dispute resolution and labor services effectively and sustainably. And that is what an institution like ours requires.
Does this mean the institution will be going through an extensive overhaul?
It will not really be an expensive overhaul because we are not starting from scratch. Mm-hmm. We already have, we have our head office where we are operating from. That is now in the Commerce region. We already have staff members who just need additional staff members as well as additional departments that will be able to provide support services to our core function.
All right. So what assessments have the Office of Labour Commissioner undertaken to determine what will work best for Namibia? And is there any proposed date for when the office will be operational?
The Office of the Labour Commissioner has recognized the value of learning from the experiences of labour dispute resolution mechanisms, especially in the Southern African Development Community countries, that is now SADC countries, to enhance its operations. To this end, the Office of the Labour Commissioner has undertaken several assessment and initiatives by benchmarking with the leading institutions in SADC, especially South Africa and Lesotho. And the office also tries to expand its assessment to Eswatini and any other countries in SADC that are either ahead of us or moving at the same pace as us towards the achievement of autonomy. Because it's not all the SADC countries are at the same level. There are those like the top four that are at stage 4, which is a preferred one in terms of SADC. It's South Africa, Eswatini, Lesotho, and Tanzania. So Namibia, like any other country that is not yet at that stage, is aspiring to be at the same stage as those countries I have mentioned.
Interesting.
With regard to if there is any proposed date, currently there is no official proposed date for when the Office of the Labour Commissioner will transition to an independent entity. However, ongoing consultations and assessments are in progress to explore the feasibility, the requirements, and structural changes necessary for achieving autonomy. This process is not a simple one. It involves detailed planning and stakeholder engagement with discussions centered on funding, governance, legal frameworks, and operational impacts. Once a comprehensive strategy is finalized and approved by the relevant government bodies, a timeline for establishing the OLC as an autonomy entity will be set.
Mrs. Sihlala, maybe in closing, you had consultations with your different stakeholders. What did you focus on?
Okay, that took place Monday. It was really a resounding success. And the consultation was on the autonomy of the Office of the Labour Commissioner. And it was basically to discuss the roadmap, the requirements, and the anticipated impacts of establishing the OLC as an independent entity. We had various panel members because we had a panel discussion, as well as the audience was allowed to ask questions and to also give their inputs. And then the rationale for the autonomy was discussed because the stakeholders then examined the reasons for transitioning the Office of the Labour Commissioner to an autonomous status. We also touched on the budgetary and financial implications, including the need for independent budgeting authority. We also looked at the legislative and regulatory adjustments because in order to achieve autonomy, legislative changes will be required to establish a legal framework that supports the OLC independent status. Consultations also focused on identifying necessary amendments to current labor laws to clearly define the Office of the Labour Commissioner's authority, the functions, and the accountability mechanisms. We also looked at the governance and the oversight structure because establishing an effective governance is essential for autonomy. And at that point, the stakeholders discussed potential governance frameworks, such as establishing an independent board or a governing body to oversee the OLC operations in order to ensure accountability and transparency. We also looked at the operational and the structural needs, and basically we discussed a lot of things. Imagine the meeting started from 9 o'clock and we closed off past 1. So a lot of things were discussed, and these consultations really aim to ensure that all stakeholders have a shared understanding of the goals, the challenges, and the benefits of OLC autonomy. And this laid the foundation for a strategic transition plan. And we will continue engaging. It is not just a once-off. We will continue engaging with our stakeholders and our social partners.